Stall.
What you are about to witness is a gripping account of one of aviation's most perplexing tragedies. A state-of-the-art aircraft, a highly experienced crew, and a seemingly routine transatlantic flight that suddenly spiraled into a terrifying and inexplicable disaster. This is the story of Air France Flight 447. In the night of May 31, 2009, Rio de Janeiro, on board the wide-body Airbus A330 was 216 passengers, a mix of families, tourists, and business travelers from nearly 30 nations. At approximately 8 p.m. local time, the massive aircraft, emblazoned with the iconic Air France livery, was pushed back. The crew, a team of seasoned professionals, prepared for the long overnight flight across the vast expanse of the Atlantic Ocean. The route from Rio to Paris is a well-trodden path, stretching across the northern Atlantic, skirting the coasts of Africa and Europe before its final approach into the French capital. This transoceanic journey typically takes around 12 hours. The aircraft assigned to this flight was an Airbus A330-200, registered as FGZCP. It was one of the newer additions to Air France's fleet, having undergone a significant overhaul just the previous month, in April 2009. At the time of this fateful flight, it had accumulated a respectable 19,000 flying hours. Powering this sophisticated machine were two robust General Electric CF6 engines, renowned for their reliability, with no documented issues in the aircraft's history. At the controls were 3 pilots, a standard procedure for this extended duty. In the left seat was the captain, 58-year-old Marc Dubois. A veteran aviator, Captain Dubois had amassed nearly 11,000 flying hours, over 6,000 of which were as a captain. His experience on the Airbus A330 alone totaled an impressive 1,700 hours. In the co-pilot's left seat was 37-year-old David Robert, the relief first officer. He brought to the cockpit over 6,000 flying hours, with a significant 4,500 hours, specifically on the Airbus A330. In the right seat was 32-year-old Pierre-Cedric Bonin. He had accumulated nearly 3,000 flight hours, including 807 hours on the A330. At 8:30 p.m. local time, precisely on schedule, Air France Flight 447 lifted off from Rio de Janeiro. The takeoff was normal, the powerful engines propelling the fully loaded aircraft into the night sky. Following standard procedures, the pilots initiated their climb, setting their course towards the northeast and the vast Atlantic. But ahead was a region known for its volatile weather, the Intertropical Convergence Zone, a breeding ground for massive, unpredictable thunderstorms. As the flight progressed, Captain Dubois left the cockpit for his scheduled rest period. In the right seat, now acting as the pilot flying, was the crew's most junior member, First Officer Bonin. As they entered the turbulence weather, the crew discussed climbing to evade the worst of the turbulence, but atmospheric conditions made it impossible. At 2:10 a.m., Greenwich Mean Time, the sound of ice crystals began to pepper the fuselage. This seemingly minor event was the trigger for catastrophe. These tiny ice particles, invisible to the weather radar, were ingested by the aircraft's 3 pitot tubes, the critical sensors that measure airspeed. In an instant, all 3 pitot tubes became clogged. The airspeed data being fed to the flight computers became gibberish. The indicated speed plummeted from 275 knots to just 139. The aircraft's brain, unable to trust the data, did the only thing it could. It gave up. The autopilot disconnected, the autothrust shut down, and crucially, the A330's advanced flight protections, the safety net that prevents a pilot from making dangerous maneuvers, were stripped away. The aircraft was now fully in the hands of the pilots. In the sudden chaos, First Officer Bonin reacted instinctively. "I have the controls." As the aircraft began to roll, Bonin made a fatal input. He pulled back on his side stick, commanding the aircraft's nose to pitch up. It was the exact opposite of what the situation required. The combination of high engine thrust and the nose-up attitude sent the massive jetliner into a steep aerodynamic climb. Within seconds, the stall warning sounded, a loud, repetitive alert that the wings were losing their ability to provide lift. Instead of lowering the nose to regain speed and exit the stall, Bonin kept pulling back, fighting the aircraft's erratic movements. The plane climbed 3,000 feet in just over a minute, reaching a peak altitude of nearly 38,000 feet. But it was bleeding speed, hanging on the edge of the sky. Then it began to fall. The growing desperation and tension in the cockpit, the pilots remarked, "I don't have control of the aircraft anymore. I don't have control of the aircraft at all." Captain Dubois, alerted by the calls, rushed back into the cockpit. He was met with utter confusion, remarked, "What are you doing? What's happening?" Junior officer responded, "I don't know what's happening." The aircraft was now in a deep stall, falling from the sky at a terrifying rate of 10,000 feet per minute, yet its nose was still pointed towards the heavens. For nearly 40 seconds, both first officers made conflicting inputs on their controls, canceling each other out and sealing their fate. The final warnings were a tragic irony. At 2:14 a.m. GMT, just 3.5 minutes after the pitot tubes failed, Air France Flight 447 slammed into the Atlantic Ocean. The aircraft plummeted from its cruising altitude of 38,000 feet to the sea surface in a mere 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Tragically, all 216 passengers and 12 crew members on board died in the disaster. It was one of the deadliest accidents in Air France's history and a profound loss for the global aviation community. The disappearance of Air France Flight 447 triggered an extensive international search effort across a vast and remote area of the Atlantic. Days turned into weeks, and the mystery surrounding the crash deepened with the initial discovery of only scattered debris and a few bodies. The main wreckage of the aircraft, including the crucial flight data and cockpit voice recorders, the black boxes, remained elusive, lying thousands of meters beneath the ocean surface.